Hi, Jason. How are you doing?
Hey, doing well, Jacko. How about yourself?
Good, thank you. Heard that your son Nate's going USHL camp. Congratulations. How did it go?
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Oh, you're
Yeah, he
welcome,
did
man.
really well. Yeah, he was down in Vegas with Tri-Cities. Had a good showing. Kind of regular camp of main camp.
Hmm.
He did really well. He had 3 goals, 4 assists
Oh, wow.
in that. Yeah, did really well. No fights, which was disappointing, but there was only one little, what the wife said was a little scrum compared to what she's used to. And did well. Then he actually was kind of an unknown that made it to the top 40 camp. Very, very well run camp. I'll tell you, they got it down, but it is the USHL, so
Yeah.
you expect them to know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Did very well run camp, and then he went into the top 40 game, which we really didn't expect. Just because of politics and all that kind of fun jazz. And he did well there too. He got 2 points in the game, and that, and not. No conversations afterwards, which was disappointing because here in Canada.
What do you mean, no conversations?
Well, no exit interviews, right?
Oh, they don't do that anymore?
Well, they do in Canada.
Uh-huh.
They do exit interviews.
Yeah.
But there was no exit interviews. It was just kind of will follow you guys going forward. So one of those things. I mean, he was in the prospect side. Just based on his age, because he's a young kid. But
He was the youngest one, would you say?
Pardon me?
Was he the youngest kid in the camp or no? Because he's almost an '08 birth year.
Yeah, he was. I think there was 3 actual 08. So he would have been. He would have been in the 5 youngest players. We'll just say in the camp.
Out of how many kids?
He was definitely the youngest in the top 40.
And the oldest was what, a 2004? 2004, right?
Yeah.
And how many
That's correct.
how many
Yeah.
players were total there?
There was 10 teams of, I'd say 18 skaters.
Wow. So 180 kids.
So 180 kids.
I mean,
Yeah.
so he did really well with 7 points. He was probably in the top, I would say 20 maybe, right? I mean, I don't even know.
Yeah, I don't know if there would have been any other kid that had 7, but
Oh,
he
really?
had 9 total. Yeah, he had 9 total after the top 40 game.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, he did. He had a good showing, Jacko. He had a good
That's
showing.
good.
He's got a great release. Obviously because of Hockey Alley, he's got a great release and he shoots the puck really well. Although his mentality is more of a passing mentality, when he does get the opportunity to put it away, he's got that release that you guys taught him. So
Yeah. He's got it. I mean, he's scoring points. It's in that high level. It's pretty good for that age,
Yeah, really good,
Yeah,
especially
yeah.
based on his age.
Yeah.
You've got a 4-ish/5-year difference between him and those guys. It's just he did really well. He's done really well. I mean, he's competed in 2 AJHL camps. That's Alberta Junior Hockey League. Did really well. He had 14 in the one, 14 points in 4 games in the one, and
Wow.
9 points in 3 games in the other one. He's done really well for himself. So
Yeah.
he's gonna sign a deal here in British Columbia, the BC Hockey League, going forward for next season.
Yeah.
Unique situation there with what BC is doing. Them leaving Hockey Canada, which is awesome on them. Just so they can control how the game is played and still have visors and still fighting. And it's a lot more like the USHL, right?
Yeah.
And when I say a lot more like, I mean exactly like the USHL. Bringing in kids from everywhere, whatever the best on best is. So
Yeah.
it's going to be good. Yeah, it's going to be really good. We're excited for it. It's going to be awesome for him.
Yeah, that's awesome. And congratulations on that. I hope great success for him, definitely.
Thanks, Jacko. I know you
yeah.
always support your students. And,
Absolutely.
we've been with you guys. Well, I've been with you, and he's been with you. So we're more than just students. We're kind of we are family.
Yeah, if remember him first time coming up for the power skating skate that I did, and he was there working on his skating, and that was awesome to see him grow. You know.
Yeah, and you know what? He was. I always laugh about those kind of things because he was absolute garbage at a young age.
He was
He
learning.
wasn't a
He's
hockey
new though.
player.
He was new. He was new to the sport.
Yeah, he was new. He was, he was, but he wasn't what I would classify as a hockey player at those ages. But everybody judges kids at that 7, 8, 9 years old, and they're going to be the next one. And he wasn't, but he's worked hard and continues to train with you guys and do his thing. And he's kind of escalated above all those other kids. So it's nice to see, and a praise to you guys for what you guys have done for him.
Thank you. And the thing with the hockey today is that a lot of the parents want their kids at a high level when they're young. And they ask me this question, and it was today the same thing. Should my son play at the A level? I said, well, how much ice time is he going to get? And they said, not much. I said, well, I prefer he plays on the lower level if he's going to touch the puck more and play more. They were kind of like, really? I said, yeah, if you want the ice time, that's probably going to be better for your kid. Because if you look down the line a few years from now, you're not going to care whether it was A or B level when you get older.
Jacko, that's a funny factor because I always held Nate back from playing at the highest level. And I said, no, he'll play one down. And I got so much ridicule from the air quotation mark hockey guys that are coaching and running and doing that thing. And I said, no, he'll just go down to the next tier. Not that he couldn't play at that tier, just it was as he was growing up, right? Like obviously he started young, but he worked hard and did his thing. And because I held him back, he was the top end guy. So he got more puck touches, he got more skating, he got more ice time, he got more crucial situations where it's not a lot in the year, but there are times where you're playing in a tournament or you're playing in wherever, and it's the last 5 minutes and they put you out there. So it's kind of the coach's way of saying, hey, buddy, it's on you. Yeah. Where if you're playing on that top tier and you've got the kid that's, developing earlier than you and that kind of stuff, he gets that shot. He gets that ice time.
Yeah.
And that's not what you want.
Yeah.
Do you really want to be a third-line guy your entire life? No, you don't.
Yeah.
You want to develop yourself to be a first-line guy. So sometimes when you're a good hockey player, good solid hockey player, exactly what you said, go play the tier below, be the guy, build the confidence, go score those goals, be the guy in that situation. Not saying that if you ever miraculously make the NHL, that you're going to be the top-line guy. But, man, have that feeling that you know what it's like.
Yeah, it's experience that you can't buy it.
You can't buy it.
No.
And you look at a guy like, I know in previous talks we've talked about guys like Mark Letestu and guys that I know that developed into, they were first-line guys.
Yeah.
They hit the NHL and had to learn what it took to be a third-line guy. But they had the ability, because of what they did in their career in development, they could play on the top six.
Yeah. There was a guy named Curtis. Remember Curtis? Glenn Cross. He was like a midget A level, which is considered like in-house hockey. And he got discovered.
I don't even know if Curdy was A. I think he might have been A, but yeah,
he got discovered at a.
He was house hockey before he went to play junior, and they won the provincial championship. Mm-hmm. And there was a guy randomly, was at the game and said, "Hey, listen, this is some guy you might want to look into," and went on to play a career in the NHL. And I just actually had a beer with Curdy the other day in the Gordie Howe Pro-Am. So, yeah, he's still involved in the game, still involved with the Flames, Calgary Flames. Mm-hmm. Wonderful guy, still involved in chuck wagons and all that kind of fun jazz. And that's Curdy, and small town kid, grew up on a farm. He still has the ranching way, and it's awesome. And that's kind of what it's about, Jack.
Yeah, it's from him. I think getting the luck happened. Guy was there watching. I think what happened, they had a game after, a junior team was playing after, and they discovered him. And then from there, he got, after he played juniors, he got a scholarship to college. And then he signed in the NHL, a contract. And just
Yep.
from being at the right place at the right time, sometimes that's it can happen, you know.
Well, it's a matter of that, Jacko. It's not a matter of the money you spend and all kind. Well, there's all kinds of crazy stories that happen now, and it's not about that. If you're good and you play and you've got that drive and you've got that work ethic, my kid's one of them. It just keep going, keep driving. Don't lose focus on the fact that you're playing, tier 1 versus double A.
Yeah.
Take that as an insult when you get cut and prove to them that you're a double A hockey player or a triple A hockey player. I don't know how many A's they put behind the kids now. Like,
You buy a vowel,
probably,
basically. It's all buying a vowel.
buy a vowel. Yeah, buy a vowel. I'll buy another A for my kid, right? Like, it's one of those things. Like, it's kind of one of those where just if the kid has it in them and they're willing to put in the work and do what they need, they can make it. They can make it.
One problem I have with the whole hockey is this tryouts, and they already know who the team's going to be picked. Like, there's no coach out there who's not going to have any players picked and is going to pick them in the tryout. What they do is, like, they'll have tournaments before, they'll pick the team, and they'll do the tryout, just take the money. And they'll always say, oh, we're going to have a AAA team, and all the kids will show up, and they go, oh, we don't have enough talent, so now they kept the money. Then they make the kids come back next week again. It's kind of like fraud, and I feel it's, like, wrong. But
It is.
Yeah, they do that, and just I hate to see it, but that's what they do, and I see it every year.
It is, and it's because the parents, they're willing to pay it.
Yeah.
Right. And so what that is I look at the way I grew up, and we had no money. Like we had no money growing up. I just played. Right. You've been to Glendon. It's 250 people, 300 people. Like it's a small town. It's not a big city, and we didn't have, mom and dad didn't have money for tryouts or any of that stuff. And I got to do a little bit, but not a lot, and that hurt them. And nowadays there's a lot of very well off people, and good on them. They worked hard for their money, so I'm not slandering them on having money, but they're willing to just keep paying, and it weeds out the players that don't have money rather than best on best. And I hate the internet. I hate the internet because all these guys and these scouts, they just go on the internet and watch clips on Instat, and there's a bunch of scouting tools that are out there.
Yeah.
And they go and watch that, but that doesn't truly tell you what that player is.
No.
And they'll just run on that, and that's what they go on. It's like I think I've mentioned this before. The Edmonton Oilers drafting Jesse Puljujarvi, the Finnish guy, over Matthew Tkachuk.
Yeah.
Like, if you're a scout,
and you've talked about Tkachuk before, even he's in the finals. You've talked about him long before that he's a competitor.
Before that.
On other videos, if you remember,
yeah, every second session, because I respect that guy to death, and what he does and how he goes to war, and it's team first. It's like he drives your team. He's like Shorzy, right? He's Shorzy. I don't know if you ever watched the TV series Shorzy. It's a hockey. No. It's a spoof, right? It's a spoof on hockey, and the diehard hockey guy, and whatever. But he's like Shorzy. He brings the dog to the fight. He's the guy that will not allow his team to quit.
Yeah,
will not.
Need more guys like him in the league.
You do, but they're even Brady, that's his brother.
Yeah.
I mean, played in Ottawa. I would assume he's getting out of there this year. But he's another one that he's just a ultra competitive guy that if his teammates aren't willing to come into the fight, he doesn't want that teammate. Like they're just built the right way, and obviously Keith Tkachuk, legendary Hall of Fame. Hockey guy, that's his kid. So they're raised the right way, where there is only one way to play. And they do that, and so that's where it comes down to scouting staff and finding these guys. And I'm not saying every NHL kid that is playing in the NHL didn't get an upper hand in the deal. I'm just saying, those are two kids that play the game the right way and want to win. And that's a really hard factor right now to find in the NHL at any level.
Do you think the internet has something to do with it that ruined hockey?
100%.
Yeah, I think so too.
100%.
Yeah. have to
100%.
agree.
These kids, they only watch clips. They don't watch games. They watch highlights. They want to do that stupid Michigan move.
Yeah.
And maybe I say it's stupid just because
It's
I can't do
stupid.
it. But
No, I actually,
good on them for,
yeah,
good on them for having the skill.
no, it's not.
But I don't agree with it. It's a risky play. It's just, I don't know, Jocko. When we played the game, if you did that, there's a guy dropping his mitts the next chip.
There would probably be an injury happening after. I mean, that's just the way
you don't
it was.
do that
You don't
stuff.
show up, and
Yeah,
then no celebration. I don't ever think I ever all my life saw anyone do a hot dog celebration after a goal. We never did that stuff. They'd be a target for sure. Any league.
No, unless it was like a series-winning goal, like overtime goal, where you knew you didn't have to face them the next night. You didn't put your arms in the air.
Yeah, but you can put your arms in
know.
the air, but do these moves. I mean, these celebration. I just never saw that.
Yeah, it wasn't.
No.
I mean, it wasn't. I don't know. It wasn't a thing, right?
But then-
well, I mean,
Yeah, but people who are
It was.
listening say, "Well, hockey's more fun now with that. You know, that's made it more fun." But I just think some things are like embarrassing the opponent somehow. I just feel it's not a.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it is. I don't think it's that. I mean, you look at Matt Rempe out of New York, and he can play the game. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he can't play the game, but he is a heavy, and he does scrap and creates energy for his team, and he's a hit, man. He's a hit.
Yes.
Well, there is room in the league for these guys that, are willing to go, and they've kind of taken that out of the game,
Yeah.
and it's hurt the game. And that's where, I look at, I actually just had a good conversation with my dad the other day about that, and he had a little bit different perspective, than I did, because I'm not a supporter, so to speak, of just fighting to fight. But
No.
I'm a big proponent of having a guy, because they're all skilled guys now, but there are big guys willing to go. There's got to be somebody looking after those skilled guys.
Every
Like,
team
I know
has
when I
that.
played-
Every team had a heavyweight, 3-4 of them back in the day. Every team, you look at the roster, they had 3-4 guys that had 200, 300 minutes and penalties. If people out there want to research, go back to the 90s or the 80s, and you can look for yourself. Every team had that guy. Today, there's none.
Every team had that. And,
Yep.
and I remember, in my 19-year-old season, playing in Drayton, and I sat down with the coaches, and they're like, what are we missing? Right? And I had a really good relationship with those guys. They were very good communicators.
You mean
They
Milan, Coach Milan?
Milan.
Oh, he was
Yeah,
a good coach.
Milan and
Yeah.
Barry, and they were awesome, and they just got the game, right? Two different personalities, but they got the game, and they're like, well, what are we missing here? And I'm like, well, we only got two guys. We had a lot of guys that would go, right? But we only had two real guys that could go. And I said, we got to bring in another guy to go. And they're like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, well, they all have 3. We have 2. So those 2 guys go. They're in the penalty box. The third guy jumps me.
Mm-hmm.
And we got nothing to stand up for. I'm like, that's what wins.
Do you remember your Oilers back in the 80s and 90s? You had Semenko, you had McSorley, you had Kevin McClelland, and you had, I think, one more guy who was
There was lots. Well, everybody would go, but you had
Dave
that,
Brown. You guys had Dave Brown too, but Dave Brown once they got McSorley left, they brought in Dave Brown for the Oilers.
But they always had 3. It's the rule of 3.
Yeah.
And you have 3 of those guys that are willing to. I mean, they could still play the game. They're not.
Oh, they were
knuckle
skilled.
draggers.
Yeah, they were not
Yeah,
garbage.
they could play the game. It was just they were, obviously if stuff broke loose, the expectation was that, they would handle it, right? So, and those guys did a good job of that, and it was through my era, and now it's changed, and I look at the abuse that, just the little stuff that goes on in the game that
You
wouldn't
mean
have
the
wouldn't have
chirping?
gone on.
The chirping.
There's more injuries. There's more injuries now
Yeah.
to the top end players because of the little abuse and stuff that goes on than there ever was when I played.
And the chirping
and
too, calling each other names, that never happened much because you knew that if you did that, you better watch out. There's another guy coming out. No one ever did
It's
that.
not even a watch out, Jack. It just happened right there. And you know what? It was funny. I was playing in the Gordie Hall Pro-Am, and you know, I was playing with one pro. I don't want to mention his name, but you know, and we started talking about you know, air quotation marks PTSD. You know, like anyway, post. That's not the acronym for it, but post-concussion syndrome. And he's like, it's not that. And he explained it in his own way, and he's like, you know, this is just, you know, and I don't want to get into that because that's, you know, his terminology. And, you know, he had we'll just say a couple fights in the NHL, probably 300. But, you know, and you know, he explained, he's like, it has nothing to do with that. That's a scapegoat. This belongs in the game, and the guys go, and it's what happens is that, you know, these guys don't do a good enough job taking care of themselves, and it has nothing to do with the scraps. But he was like so dead set. It was awesome. It was actually awesome to talk with him, and you know, hear, you know, not that he was supporting. No, I'm not saying it's awesome that he was supporting my belief, but you know, he obviously lived it on that side of life, and he's like, man, they need this because of the abuse that the top end guys take.
Yeah.
And he said, that would never happen. He said, like, if Yager would have got this, you know, he obviously played with some big guys, Sakic and all that kind of fun jazz. And, you know, he's like, there's no way what goes on in the NHL right now would have ever happened under my watch. Ever.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's the problem. And he said, it didn't happen a lot, you know, and he kind of went through the eras, and he's like, you know, if you look at it, he's like, everything's tailed up, but it hit a point now where he'd actually be a really good guy. I'm going to see if I can get permission to pass along a number, but he would be a really good guy to talk to.
Sure.
Because, you know, he was like, this is, you know, it's not right in the way the game is played, and there's way too much abuse of these guys.
Yeah, I have to.
So he's happy over Rempe, and you know, he's thinking there's a subtle change happening within the NHLPA to bring some more guys in like that, to add that one, entertainment value, but two, you know, Evander Kane said it best, and I'm sorry for anybody listening, but you F around, you find out, right? You know, that's a good mentality, and I'm going to stick up for my teammates, and they're the ones that win are built that way.
You remember Probert? Nobody ever messed with Yzerman, or, you know, Kosher was there too. And Probert was a 30 goal scorer too. You know, he was not garbage. He could score goals. But he was the toughest guy in the league, and everybody knew not to mess with Yzerman. And I don't think anybody ever did.
Well, they don't do that, Jack. It was a respect factor.
Yeah.
It was, you know, and that's where we're lacking in the game today. Is that factor, the respect factor of your top end talent, because there's nobody that's going to deal with it. And the guys or the teams that win Stanley Cups have, let's just call it discreet guys like the Tkachuk brothers that are on their team where they're willing to go to war that way.
Yeah.
And that's all you need. I'm not saying bring in a knuckle dragger that can't play and the only thing he can do is drop the mitts and you pay him a couple $1 million a year to scrap. Well, I'm not saying that.
Well, they're going to get more fans in the building if you do that. No one's going to get out of their seats 100%. To go get their drinks and stuff because they're going to be sitting and watching the game, you know.
Well, 100% they are. Yeah. And it's a factor, and it's like taking contact out of football.
Yeah.
You know, that's what they've done with the game, and they're saying it's so much faster, it's so much, you know. Well, yeah, it is, but it's also, it's not as entertaining. I don't find it as entertaining. I think it's a great game, and I still love the game of hockey, but it's not as entertaining as it used to be.
Not even close. Not even close. It's just very mellow. When I went 2 games this year, it's okay. It's like a shinny game, you know, pickup game. They're just going, you know.
But yeah, what it used to be was, you know, like win or lose. Let's not go winning, losing, whatever. But let's just say win or lose, and there's a 4-goal spread going into the last 10 minutes. Now, everybody leaves the building. It's
Yeah.
gone. They're vacating. Game's over.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Yes.
Back then, they were just like rubbing their hands together, licking their chops, saying, "Now this is where the fun happens."
Yep.
And it's there's. I'm not saying it's a brouhaha, but I mean, there's one or two scraps, and they entertained you to the end of the game.
There's no rivalries anymore in the NHL or in
Well, there
hockey.
can't be, Jack. There's
No.
no intensity.
No.
There's no intensity.
No.
They've
That's what I'm
taken that-
seeing at the
Bettman
games.
Bettman has taken the entire intensity of the game and turned it into Disney on Ice. And don't get me wrong, I love the skill. I love what these kids are doing.
They're very skilled,
I love
no
that.
question. Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But you put back in, look at the Draisaitl hit on Barkov. Man, he left his feet. No, he popped his legs and extended up, but his arms were below his rib cage, and Barkov left for a bit. Man, come on.
And then
Come on. That wasn't even a hard hit.
no.
It wasn't even a hard hit.
In the playoffs, it was war. In the playoffs was war when we watched. The last best playoffs, I would have to say, is the 94 finals between New York and Vancouver. If anyone gets a chance to see that, it was a war out there. They were battling hard. One thing missing, I think, is this. What's happening is this. Bettman, he's turned it into Slapshot too. Like that guy bought the league. Gary Busey bought the league, and he wanted to turn it into family entertainment. So that's
what it is.
that's what the NHL is right now. Exactly. If you ever seen Slapshot 2, that is the NHL right now, and that's where it's gone with the tricks and all that. The games are kind of like yeah.
Well, Jacko, you even look at the pregame shows and don't get me wrong, it's an entertainment value. But
Even the warm-ups is a circus show out there, and the warm-ups with the players flipping pucks. None of that existed. No one did that. They just got ready for the game. No one's flipping pucks.
Well, but Jacko, we got ready for the game because it was a war.
Yeah.
Every game was a war.
They didn't care if you're bleeding or hurt, bruised, you played. You never left. You never leave your teammates hanging.
Well, no, I mean, don't get me wrong. I do agree. I absolutely agree with their concussion protocol and stuff like that, where they're looking after the players' longevity in the game, and I'm good with that because we didn't do that back then.
No.
I know
Part of the game,
guys
though. They know you're going to play hockey. It's part of the game. It's like going to the military. There is a chance of you getting hit. It's the same thing.
Absolutely, 100%. I agree with that, but I agree with the medical side of what they're doing, saying, hey, you know what? In the past, we have overlooked this aspect, so we're going to do a better job now. So I agree with that, but I don't agree with taking it out of the game. Like all the contact fighting.
I think they need to start contact at 6 years old in order to make it better. The younger you can start them, less injuries. The kids are going to have their heads up and they know how to go into the boards. Today's players don't know how to do that. I watch and I laugh.
100%, Jack. 100%. You're the earlier, you can make modified contact. There's a ton of things that you can do to make it right. Not right, but train these kids the proper way. And I look at Europe, and they always say, well, Europe does it this way. And I'm like, no, they don't. There's contact right from day one.
Oh, yeah.
They're okay with same-way contact. They're just not okay with blowing guys up open ice.
In Sweden, there was checking from the beginning. When you step on the ice, it's checking hockey. There was no non-check hockey
you bump,
in Sweden.
you grind, you angle, and then that's what these kids do. Like, that's what they did.
Yeah.
And we don't do that. We're coached a different way, but we're coached away from what made North America special, which is we were a lot harder nosed of hockey players than what was growing up.
Yeah.
Right? So they look at these kids now, and it's like, you hear from all kinds of skating, shooting, passing, and I'm like, can they even think the game? No. Can they think?
There's nobody.
Can they see a guy open?
Yeah, they're not playing pickup enough. I think kids are just working on their own a lot, which is fine, but they also need to do the games to kind of get that experience of how to play.
And you're right. You have to develop your own skill, which is one-on-one training and that kind of stuff, which is what you provide, right? But but the ultimate is you just got to go play the game.
Yeah.
And not structured, but shinny. Just go
pickup games. Pickup games for all you Americans. Shinny is pickup games, so if people don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, the other thing is just not worry about the letter. That don't chase a letter. Go and play hockey. Don't worry about the letters.
No, remember the game is a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying by that is it doesn't matter where you're at 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 years old. It doesn't matter where you're at. Put the work in, train the right way, go to shinny or what do you like, pick up hockey, get the ice time where you have fun and you do your toe drag and you stick handle and you work hard and you do that. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you're playing at those ages. When you hit 18, 19 years old, that's where it matters. That's where it matters. Because you got to get set to go.
Yeah.
And don't be mad because you're playing in the NA3 at 17 years old and not the NAL or the USHL. Just go prove to them that you can play there and work harder.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's what these kids are missing. They're on their phones, they're on the internet, and it's instant gratification on these things. And I hate them, Jack. Kids nowadays, their entire life is instant gratification with going on these video games or TikTok or whatever, and it's these stupid 15. Yeah. I don't know how long it is. I don't do any of that.
I don't know any of it. You're just asking me. I've heard of this stuff, but I've never seen it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's me too, but I see it, and I'm like, man, get off your phone. Like unplug from your phone. Like Nate played for one of the coaches. When he entered the bus to go on a road trip, the coach had a bag. Put your phones in here. Turn them off. When and they had to hang out the entire road trip with the team. Figure it out. Go play cards. Go bring a board game. Go just like we used to do on the
We
bus.
used to look out the window and think about the game and what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
I had a game plan ahead of time what I'm gonna do out there, and kind of like that was what we did on our road trips. That was it. Some people did cards. I didn't do
Jack.
that.
It's not the way it is now.
No.
And so I was really appreciative of the one coach that Nate had that took those away, forced them to be a team and play, focus on your team, focus on the game, do what you want. Go take a nap. I don't care, but you're not going to be on your phone, Insta-tweeting, Snapagramming, all that kind of stupid stuff. You focused on what you were, and you were a hockey player.
Yeah.
And honestly, what a successful season that they had, and they did really well. And that was I equated that to he just kept them engaged in the team and the game, and they don't do that now. It's a free for all, and these coaches are paid so much money at young ages that blows my mind. Blows my mind with what these guys make at a young age. I can't even believe there's a paycheck, but they're not doing it out of the goodness of their heart. It's a paycheck. It's a job to them, and that's fine too. But one of those things where coach a little team, and you're getting paid $5,000 a month to do that. Wow, that's crazy to me.
Yeah,
I don't get it. And they're not qualified, and they've never played. And some of them claim they've played, and I know you've mentioned the one from the Red Army that was 25 years old. The Red Army hasn't existed.
No. There's a lot of those guys that say they played and stuff, and people believe in. Yeah. The biggest problem is I think their kids are on their phones and iPads way too much, and they don't spend enough time doing activities outside. And it's sad to see, because we used to play outside and play always outdoors. We never played on it.
Well, we didn't. But Jocko, we didn't have the option of iPads and phones when we grew up.
Probably if they were around, we'd probably be on them too.
I don't know. I don't think so. I mean,
but there was video games, and I didn't even really play it. There was arcades and video games, consoles and stuff. We never played.
You know what? I had growing up, I had I don't know, this is like Nintendo, Sega, Atari. I know most people listening, they don't even know what that is, but the basic game consoles. And my parents they never let me play it. It was like, no, that's for weekends, and you get 1 hour. That's it.
No, some kids get 3-4 hours a day. Some kids play 1 hour a day, but
some kids have a free for all where you come home and you do that. Then I take you to hockey practice, and you play that till 10 o'clock at night, and you go to bed. It's not healthy for their brains.
No, not at all. Yeah,
it's not. It's not, and it's disappointing. And the game has changed, though. I get it, but it's difficult, and you look at, I guess have a little bit more information on some players, but, you kind of look at, we'll just call it the Connor Bedards, the McDavids, the Matthews, like how they were raised. They weren't raised with those.
No.
It was like, no, you don't get those. You do this.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so they didn't do those things.
I'm wondering, 20 years from now. I'm wondering 20 years from now, is the hockey going to get ruined more than it is? Or do you think it's going to come back? They're going to get their senses together?
No, you know what, Jack? I got a hunch. With everything that's happening in hockey now, with the HSL, the JPHL, the Silent Ice Group that's kind of revolutionizing. I use that term loosely, because they're not revolutionizing hockey. They're just trying to put it back to the same as it was. I'm thinking we're not too far off of the WHA rebuilding, and they're going to start a new league.
That'd be too many. It would be too many teams, though. All these teams. I mean, so you think some teams will merge with the WHA? Is what you're saying from the NHL?
Well, just like they did in the 70s, it's going to be the same thing.
Yeah, but players are going to go where the money is. I mean, players are going to go where the money is, and that's what happened at WHA.
But there's lots of players that can't play where the money is, and it's going to get exposed to what they're doing and how they're doing it. They're going to try and. I believe it. I hope, and when I say I believe it, I hope there's going to be a new league that starts.
Yeah.
Just to put the rules back the way the rules were. I hate reviews.
Yeah.
I don't see a need for it.
Get rid of the referee, the one extra ref. Keep the two linesmen and get rid of the one referee. Only have a three-guy referee.
If you miss a call, you miss a call. It is what it is.
But the two refs has gotten even worse with the referees, But
Jack, that's all based on this Bet365 and the Bet99 and they're introducing gambling. Yeah. And making it legalized in the NHL is the worst thing that's ever happened, and they're manipulating that to make more money. It's become a business, and it's become Vegas. It's a show.
Yeah,
it's a show.
Bobby Hull's the one who created the WHA, so more players can have jobs. That's what he did.
You know what? I don't think more players have to have jobs.
No, back then, 1970s.
Well, I know. Yeah. I know, and I don't think the WHA needs to start for that same reason. No. I think it needs to start for just rule changes and putting the game back where it was at. So, the guys they play harder, they play tougher, all that kind of fun stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I'd like to see the game go back to the way a little bit to the way it was. I love the direction of the game. I love the skill in the game. I can't argue any of that.
But there's no creativity in the passing. Like, it's all stretch passes now. There's no coming up the ice, crisscross, and that's gone. It's a lot of just long passes out of the zone. That's because of the red line, but that's just the difference.
No, there are skilled players out there doing their thing and that kind of stuff. But I wouldn't say there's a lot of hockey IQ going on. There is with some players and your top guys and that kind of stuff, and trying to cycle and high to low and stuff like that, which is awesome. But I don't believe that they're, we're I don't know. It's just there's a lot of players that I see that if you added true contact back in the game. I'm not saying the elbows. I'm not saying the running. I'm not saying any of that. But threw the game back a bit to where it should be. Lots of these guys can't play, can't compete.
No, I agree.
But yeah, Jocko, that's my take on the game, and it's I love the game, love to see the Stanley Cup Finals going on, and hope the best for the Edmonton Oilers. But I think as per conversation, I don't think they have enough to make it through.
No,
but
definitely, I don't.
They'll down 3-rip to Florida. That's gonna be a tough one for them to come back from. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope they can pull it off. Just because born and raised Albertan, I hope they can do it. But I don't think they have the toughness, the meanness, the will to compete. The back end, the goaltending, there's a lot that I can say that they're just not quite there yet, but they're getting close.
Yeah.
So they're getting closer every year.